Maruti Suzuki's People Technology presents Suzuki Connect with Navigate to Car and many other features.
Watch more, feel more. Dell.
Okay, then England have raced ahead in Group 1 with 2 wins out of 2, but there's a chance for either one of Australia or Sri Lanka to catch up with them tonight as they take on each other in game number 22 of the T20 World Cup. Remember, Australia beat South Africa in their opening game, while Sri Lanka are fresh from their win versus Bangladesh. You're watching Maruti Suzuki presents CSPN Cricket Info T20 Timeout powered by Dell, and I'm delighted to be joined by a familiar face on our program, that is Ajit Agarkar, but making his debut on ESPN Cricket Info T20 Timeout is Mahela Jayawardene. Mahela, welcome. One of the finest batsmen to have come out of Sri Lanka, their former captain, and now one of the sharpest thinkers in the game. Let me quickly run you through some of his records in the IPL. As you all know, he's an IPL winning coach, having won, I think, 52 odd games with the Mumbai Indians, and then with Southern Braves in the 110 matches he was there, and 8 wins for them. Mahela, I wonder, all that time that you spent with the Sri Lankan team recently, that's the one that's propelled them into this new avatar that we're seeing.
I can't take credit for that. I think there's a good coaching group there as well. But it was good for me to go back into the dressing room after 7 years, I think. A very enthusiastic group of young cricketers. Obviously, they haven't had much experience, but we worked on a few things. I think the biggest thing was how to handle pressure in big tournaments, what kind of attitude that they need to have going into a tournament like this, and the tempo that they need to play. I think those were the conversations that I mainly had with a lot of the players, and just to calm themselves and the youngsters. It was a big occasion, playing their first T20 World Cup, so had to make sure that saying it's just a game of cricket and enjoy it as well.
Okay, we're going to bring you the latest from the toss, where Australia has won and they will be bowling first. But before that, just thoughts from you, Ajit. Crucial game now for both these teams if they have to match up with England, because all of that is going to be very crucial in what people are at the moment calling the group of death.
It is. I mean, it is clearly on paper a tougher group than the group two for sure. I mean, Bangladesh, West Indies at the moment to get out the mark as well, and they're good teams. So whoever, I mean, either of these teams would want to get that second win, put that distance between someone like a West Indies who can still be a threat. South Africa have lost one. A win will be. I mean, that is a tough group. So every game that you win just puts more pressure on the teams that are losing. So both teams coming off very impressive wins, so should be a good contest.
Okay, I'll come to Mahela in a while, but Ajit, staying with you, what we're getting to here, as I mentioned right at the start, Australia winning the toss and then deciding to chase. That was a no-brainer, Ajit, because what we've seen in the T20 World Cup and in the IPL before that, teams chasing have a massive advantage.
Yeah, at this venue as well, and in general, but at this venue as well, there's likely that they'll be due around. So bowling becomes a bit harder, batting gets a little bit easier whilst you're chasing. We saw Pakistan chase quite comfortably the other day against India as well. So yeah, no brainer. Plus, Sri Lanka have some mystery spinners. So if the ball is going to get wet, that might work in the chasing team's favor. So yeah, I think most teams you'd see, unless the pitches really change and there's no dew around. I can't see too many teams winning the toss and not wanting to chase.
Well, what's interesting is that Sri Lanka have been there at the T20 World Cup for some time now. They played round one as well. Interestingly, they haven't played in Dubai so far. The other thing that we've noticed, out of the 3 venues, the one where dew is least likely to have any sort of effect, that is Dubai compared to Abu Dhabi and Sharjah. How do you then expect Sri Lanka to approach this encounter?
Well, I think they need to, concentrate on the conditions and play those conditions. I mean, what we've seen is like, yes, it is tough to defend, but at the same time, if Sri Lanka are tactically savvy, if they use their spinners up front when they're bowling second, and try and utilize as many overs as well, possibly when the ball's dry. That's a way to go. But the first thing first, they need to put up a decent score. This is a formidable batting unit, but they have been shaky in this tournament. They still haven't, got everyone going yet. So it's an opportunity for Sri Lanka to put some runs on the board and put pressure on that Australian batting lineup. Hopefully, a few early wickets.
Okay, let's get you the changes in the Sri Lankan team. There's one change which was expected. Thikshana comes in there. He had a bit of a side strain in the previous encounter, so didn't play that. Mailat, I mean, that probably was the reason he didn't play, because there was no other reason Sri Lanka would have gone with one spinner in that game, and now they've gone back to what their strength is.
Yeah, I think I was actually with the team when he had that little nickel in that last group game in the qualifier. It was a precautionary decision because Sri Lanka had a 7 day gap if he had missed that Bangladesh game. So I think they took the wise decision by not playing him in that game, and I believe he's 100% now and raring to go. I think great opportunity. The young man has really performed well so far in the competition, so he'll be looking forward to this challenge.
Talking about this challenge that Tikshana poses, Ajit, interestingly, you tend not to bowl the off spinner to right handers, but Tikshana is a different kettle of fish because he gets all his wickets with that ball that comes in. Either it hits the pad and he gets those LBWs or gets those bowled. And I'm seeing the batting lineup of Australia, plenty of right handers there, so he's going to trouble them.
Yeah, I mean it won't matter if you're a right hand or left hand. I did the last league game or the qualifier of Sri Lanka. I worked on that game. Just bowled what the 1 over, but you could see why he's rated so highly. Why he's going to be difficult to face. And if they get runs on the board, he's going to be a handful for Australia because then you not only have to face him or bat against him, but you've got to look to score off him as well. So if Sri Lanka get runs on the board, their bowling has been quite impressive. Even though they conceded 170 in Sharjah, they've got a lot of variety in their bowling. So and he just adds some more teeth to it as well. So they must be welcoming him being fit in this game.
We saw Sri Lanka in that game versus Bangladesh, Mahila. They tended to go with their fast bowlers. Now with Australia, considering the form that the Australian openers are, considering Sri Lanka's strength is the spinners, you expect Tikshana there will get a few overs in the power play?
I think so. I think when you go by the stats as well, I mean, over my head, I would say that Warner, Finch, even Marsh, all those guys are a bit vulnerable against off spin and against mystery spinners. There is a good matchup for Sri Lanka, and Theekshana is they always use in the power play. So I think Sri Lanka will definitely utilize that option, and even Banindu Hasaranga as well. I mean, he's not an ordinary leg spinner. His skill set is quite different. So I think these are two bowlers that they will try and depend on picking up those wickets. I mean, if Sri Lanka has a decent runs on the board, that's going to put pressure on the Australian batsmen to actually take on these spinners rather than just rotate them out of the attack. And the two Sri Lankan fast bowlers are not ordinary. They have a little bit of punch. They've got a bit of extra pace. What we've seen on this Dubai track, it can be a bit up and down as well. I mean, unless there's a lot of dew, there will be a bit more challenge for those Australian batsmen against these two fast bowlers as well.
It's not often, Ajit, someone says that some fast bowling will pose a challenge to Australian batsmen. But if there was ever a time that you could say this could be the contest, just looking at the two fast bowlers, Kumara's got a bit of pace about him, so does Chamira. And considering the two batsmen not in the greatest of form, even going with those fast bowling options won't be a bad idea.
Yeah, I think I was about to say at the moment anyone bowling to Finch and Warner is seems to be a challenge as good as they've been in their career. So I think most bowlers will want to. Warner started to look a little bit better, but those two are rapid. Both Chabira and both of them bowled rapid in Sharjah in particular, even on a slow pitch. So this will give them a bit more help, bigger boundaries as well. So might test out with a shorter ball. Like I said before, Sri Lankan attack does have a lot of variety, and if they bowl well, I didn't think in Sharjah, even though it was a better pitch than what we've seen in Sharjah, they didn't quite bowl well on the day. But they've got a lot of variety, and if they get it right, uh, it'll be a massive challenge for Australia, who quite a few of their players aren't in that good a form, batting form rather.
I'd love to get into the Sri Lankan batting because they'll be coming out to bat shortly. But before that, I'd love to spend some time on the the two Australian openers because much has been spoken about the form of David Warner and Finch. Amaila, I'll get you in this, and let's talk about Aaron Finch. What do you think really ails him? He's been otherwise an outstanding batsman in T20 cricket, but just looking at his numbers this year around, hasn't quite been in form. What do you reckon? Is it also because of the fact that he's not playing consistently? There has been a stop gap sort of a arrangement because of you had corona, so really not getting through, also wasn't part of the IPL. What do you think really ails him at the moment?
I think so. I think that the biggest concern for them is a lot of their players haven't had the match practice that some of the other teams had. I think they've been off for about good 6 months. They haven't played much cricket. I think when they toured Bangladesh as well, they most of the guys opted out. So I think they out there in the middle, especially playing in big tournaments or playing against good opposition. That's where you get tested. You get your rhythm. You get your options going and you get your confidence. I think you can bat as much as you want in the nets, but you not get that feeling. So especially when you're coming into a World Cup, it's quite hard to find that form straight away. And that we've seen not just with the Australian batsmen, we've seen with some of the other batters as well in the competition. So that's a challenge that Finchy and Warner and a few of the others have. But I think these are quality players. I mean, more they play on these surfaces, they will get used to the pace and they will find that rhythm. I'm sure they've been working really hard in the nets, and hopefully not much form today, but yeah, they're quality players. They will come through.
You talk about working hard in the nets. You're reading a story there about David Warner talking about practicing on those concrete pitches. One thing that he mentions that the pitches have also tired out as far as the practice pitches are concerned because you had the IPL before that, so not great practice. That's why I moved to concrete sort of practice. Ajit, now on the subject of Warner, as I spoke about Finch as well, we heard from him when he was asked about his form. He went ahead and said that, listen, I've hardly played any cricket. I played those 2 games in the IPL. Then you gave chance to the youngsters. I've just played a few warm-up matches here and then one or Super 12 games. So it's too early to talk about me not being in form. What do you reckon? Is it a bit of posturing or does he really have a point there?
I mean, look, he's been a terrific player throughout his career. So that's a bit of confidence as well in his own ability, and he's got to have belief that he can turn it around. And that he's stating facts. He hasn't had a lot of cricket. The twice that he played in the IPL got out for a duck in a warm up game against New Zealand. Again, I worked on that. Was a blinder that Martin Guptill took. Got out for a knot. So hasn't had time in the middle, and unless no matter how much you'll spend time in the nets or prepare for the game, till you don't get some sort of runs, I don't necessarily think he's right. He doesn't know whether he's in good form or bad form at the moment because he hasn't spent too much time. So today, in the last game though, he got a few other middle, must have made him feel a little bit
Yeah.
better. But he's, from Sri Lanka's perspective, they want to keep him where he is at the moment. And if they can bowl well, no matter how good you've been in your career, if your confidence is not there, your feet aren't quite moving, you're a little bit tentative at the start, you will provide an opportunity. And Sri Lanka need to take that because if they don't, we know what Warner can do.
Okay, one thing that he's got going for himself, David Warner, Mahela, is the confidence. As Ajit mentions, he's never shot on confidence. So that's one, that's a start. The other bit, I'm just taking a look at his average in T20Is versus Sri Lanka. The best he averages against any team, averaging a mighty 56. That definitely will give him confidence going ahead, looking at the opposition he's taking on today, and probably the one opportunity for him to get back into form.
Absolutely. I think this is all about experience, them going back, reflecting, what they've done well over the years and go back to those memories of them playing good cricket. I think that's what experience does. More and more games that they've played, they've realized these situations are there, and it's tough for a batsman, especially in a T20 format, to spend more time out there in the middle, because that means you're taking more balls, and if you're not in the rhythm, that means you're losing the advantage. So I think for a batsman, it's about going, playing those shots, backing themselves, and getting into a rhythm rather than trying to just spend time out there. I think that's a good and bad thing about T20 cricket. You can go either way, but I think given the experience that David Warner has and Aaron Finch has, I'm sure they will they will back themselves to go hard and try and get a good start. And once they have that rhythm, they will be very good.
Okay, let's now turn our attention to the Sri Lankan batting. The Sri Lankan batters are going to be out very soon, and there's going to be a challenge between the batsmen from Sri Lanka and those Australian fast bowlers. You'll have the likes of Pat Cummins, Mitchell Stark. Firstly, let's talk about the batsmen. Mahila, I'm going to come back to you again on Kushal Perera. He's the mainstay of that batting, the most runs that anyone's got in that batting lineup in T20I cricket. It's him, but hasn't had a great time in T20Is recently. You would want him to wake up. Now's the time.
Yeah, he definitely. I think they're going to depend a lot on Kusal. Unfortunately for him as well, he hadn't had much cricket leading up to this tournament. He was injured. He was in and out of the team. They used him very sparingly during the games to make sure that he doesn't aggravate that injury. So he's another guy who's short of time out there in the middle and confidence, and another person who bats with instinctive ability out there in the middle. I mean, he's going to be up against some quality bowling with Stark, Cummings, and Hazelwood, the bounce, the swing, and the pace, all three. But if someone is capable of taking that extra pace on, is Kusal. He won't shy away from a challenge. I think it will be a great contest, and it will be a great contest for other batsmen in the Sri Lankan lineup as well. Against some good bowling, but they need to back themselves and back their ability to get runs on the board.
The one thing, Ajit, you notice in that graphic of Kusal Pereira's knocks in 2021, not too many runs, but the strike rate seemed decent there, close to 115. What does that signify? That he's still, in terms of confidence, all there, still attacking as always?
Yeah, which is, I mean, he bats at the top as well. So he bats aggressively. So the strike rate's not too bad. He'll ideally like some runs. It is going to be a challenge with the new ball because we've seen at least we didn't see it at all in the IPL, but in during the World Cup, the ball has certainly swung up front.
Yeah.
Whether it's for a couple of overs, maybe 3 overs at times, there has been some sort of shape that the bowlers have got. But the field is in as well. So someone who plays aggressively can put the loose balls away will always have a good strike rate, and he is key to them. You need a good start from which you can build because we saw what Sri Lankan middle order did in the last game, so they'll be full of confidence.
You talk about that Sri Lankan middle order. I'm going to talk about the star in that last game, Asalanka, with that 80 run knock that he played. He's batting at number 3, Mahila. You think now he's kind of cemented that place? We saw Sri Lanka start with Chandimal there, but now have they found their number 3?
Yeah, I think Sri Lanka has been struggling for a while with that top order positions, moving around few players. Obviously, started with the experienced Chandimal, but him not batting that well. They went to the youngster. Charit has been batting really well, especially in 50 over cricket. T20 format, he hasn't had much games under his belt, but domestic cricket, he has scored runs. So this is a player for the future. It's a great opportunity for him to be part of a World Cup so early. And that last knock in Sharjah where he guided the team on a run chase, the way he batted showed the maturity in him. Even though it's a smaller ground against a Bangladesh attack, still it's a very, very good knock. So it will give him some confidence, but Dubai, the surface is going to be different. The biggest challenge for Sri Lankan batsmen is to get used to the surface because they haven't played here. Yes, they had quite a few games in Abu Dhabi, bit similar, but obviously the Dubai surface is a bit unique than Abu Dhabi as well. So them playing games in Sharjah and then moving on to this surface, that's going to be the challenge for a lot of the Sri Lankan top order batsmen.
I just wanted your thoughts, Mahela. I would love to know what you make of the rest of the batting order. We spoke about the more experienced Pereira, but the other ones, as we spoke about Asalanka here, you had Rajapakse as well performing. Hasaranga did very well with the bat too. How is this now, this new look Sri Lankan middle order shaping up?
I mean, they've got specific roles. I think once they get challenged, I mean that's the real challenge for them to see how they're going to react to certain situations. But if everything goes well, they've got a good set plan. Avishka Fernando's been in very good form. Unfortunately, the qualifiers, couple of games, he hasn't been able to run, but the leading up to the tournament, he's been in really good form. So 4, 5, 6 had runs. There's a bit of power in them as well. And Wanindu is someone that Sri Lanka will use as a floater to give them a little bit of momentum he's a decent batsman. I mean, he knows what he's doing. He can give you that 20-30 runs quickly and give that momentum. So Sri Lanka will have few trump cards under their belt, but the important thing for them is that, the top order, giving them that start, settling them down so that, the rest of the guys can follow up.
Let's get into the Australian bowling, and I'm going to bring Ajit here. Stark is playing. There were a bit of doubts there with regards to his ankle, whether he's going to be fully fit or not. But have you seen him bowling in full tilt up until now, Ajit?
Yeah, I thought he was very good. I thought as soon as the ball swings, he becomes even more dangerous. Someone who bowls that pace, left arm, bringing the ball into right-handers or away from the left-handers. There will be a little bit more in this pitch, uh, so he'll be a handful. I think he's at the best. He's looked good, even though he's not had a lot of cricket coming into the tournament. Even that warm up against India, he bowled whatever little he did bowl, he looked quite good. So he is, as usual in white ball cricket, their main guy. Hazelwood's actually, you can see
Yeah.
the advantage of having a little bit of cricket behind you. Hazelwood certainly hit his strap, consistently bowling the lengths that you perhaps need to bowl in the UAE. He's hit the length a lot more consistently than maybe a Pat Cummins. But wickets up front. Australia got wickets up front in the previous game and made life a lot easier for them. They didn't have to use a sixth bowler. I mean, Maxwell did the job of the fifth bowler after opening the bowling. So and they've got Stoinis and Mitch March if needed. So they've got a decent balance in their attack as well.
You talk about Hazelwood, Mahila. The emergence of Hazelwood as a T20 bowler, always a test match specialist. You must have seen him during the IPL as well, has suddenly prospered as a T20 bowler. Is it the lengths that he's been hitting?
And not only that, I think in the last 12 months, 18 months, I think even T20 cricket has shifted from that, wanting that new ball bowler who picks up wickets early. So most of the teams are looking for that option. I think, guys like Trent Bolt, guys like Andre Nortje, Chris Wokes, Deepak Chahar, all these guys, who do a little bit with the ball, swings, get that bit of bounce, and Ajit rightly said, having played for Chennai and getting used to these conditions, he bowled really well up front for Chennai as well, and he knows those lengths, which is the important thing. But I think a lot of the teams, international teams, franchise teams, are moving, shifting across to find that new ball bowler who is going to give you those early breakthroughs. I think Hazelwood is the guy for Australia to do that role, and then they have guys like Stark and Cummings to in the middle who have that extra bit of pace and then finish. They've set up themselves really well and they've got good options. They've got another couple of pace options if they want to use, if the wicket's helpful, and even in conditions if the dew comes in as well. They're bowling first, but even in situations where bowling second, they've got that balance right in that team.
Okay, before we wrap up, quick word on what is the kind of target, Ajit, to you first, that Sri Lanka would be looking at.
I think they'd be happy with anything over a 160. I think they'd want that. It's a big ground, plus with their bowling, Australia not being in great form. 170 ideally, but anything, 160, I think it'll be more than competitive with the bowling Sri Lanka have.
The highest Mahila up until now, I think India is the one that scored 151 odd in Dubai in the 3 games that we've seen. I'm going to ignore that 155 all out. That was an aberration. But as Ajit mentioned, 160 odd, that 60 or maybe even 170.
I think 160 has been a pass score there. I think that's been the mark. You shouldn't be looking too high as well, because if you lose early wickets, you're going to fall short. So I think even you're looking at 150, 155, and a couple of good partnerships up front will get you to 170 even. So I think Sri Lanka will be looking around that 150 mark to start off with, given the fact that the bowling that Australia has. But if they get a good start and if they control the middle period, they could reach that 160, 170 mark, and a couple of early wickets. Sri Lanka is always going to be in the game.
Okay, Mahila Jayawardene, Ajit Agarkar, thanks so much for joining us. Here's a reminder before we wrap up our show. The last time these two teams met was in 2019 in a bilateral T20I series. That time Australia won 3-0. But listen, that was 2 years ago and was a completely different conditions with Australia playing at home. Let's see what pans out here. Ajit Agarkar, Mahila Jayawardene, thanks so much for joining us. You are watching Maruti Suzuki Presents ESPN Cricket for T20 Timeout, powered by TEL.
Maruti Suzuki's People Technology presents Suzuki Connect with Navigate to Car and many other features.
Watch more, feel more, Dell.